Hi everybody, hi, happy Friday. Sorry, just having some technological issues. Hope you're all doing really well. Today we are talking about the dark art of empowerment and letting go. And this is one of the hardest things for any new manager. And something actually that even experienced managers really struggle with. And I have to confess to you that I have always really struggled with this, and particularly at the beginning of my career, I really found this a tough one. It was always easier to do it myself. I knew what I was doing, I could always do it quicker and better, and I kind of really struggled to get over that, and so I want to say to you that I really do understand that this is a tough one. So the way that I managed to get around it myself was I took a job where I was managing people that were doing things that I didn't understand myself, that I'd never done myself, and so I was able to focus on helping them with what they were struggling with, not so much in terms of the technicality, but what was getting in the way, what conversations they needed to have, where they needed to put a plan together or get a bit more clarity. I was able to focus more on being a good manager than on the minutiae of the task that my people were doing. And that's how I sort of started to get my head around how you do effectively delegate and how you do empower other people. And it really taught me that the real key trick here, if you like, or the key essence of good delegation is about being really, really clear, and you have to be clear in yourself before you can give other people clarity. What happens in my experience, and I've worked with a lot of people, business owners and managers on this topic, on how do you actually let go. And what I find often happens is people think that they've delegated, but they really haven't, and so they're still involved in the process, and actually now you've got less time rather than more. And so that's why a lot of people find delegation very hard, because it's like, oh, it's going to actually take me time to do this. It does take time to get it right, but then the time that, if you do it properly, the time that you get back is really worth it. So in chapter 8 of my book, which is the management chapter, I actually explain that there are different types of delegation, and I think that it's really clear, it's really important actually to think about which ones of these you want to do, and it all comes down to what level of control do you actually want. So I'm going to read you some of these different levels of delegation to see if they make sense to you. So at the top, where you have the most control, you can say, follow these instructions, do exactly as I say. So that's this is how you do it. This is what I would call a Janet and John. And this can work well with junior people or people that don't have a lot of experience. Then you can say, investigate this, tell me about it, and then I'll decide. So you're still keeping quite a lot of control, and you still need quite a lot of time in that. They are going to do the investigation, the research is going to come back, and you're going to make the decision. The next level down, if you like, or the next level of sort of empowering is investigate this, tell me about it, and then let's decide together. Still quite a lot of your time, but now the other person's taking a bit more ownership. The fourth one is tell me what you found and what you need from me to help you deal with it, and then we'll decide. So you're asking the other person really to think through how this thing would be implemented, how this decision would be made, but you're still ultimately being involved in that decision. Give me your analysis and recommendations, and I'll let you know if you can proceed. So tell me what decision you think you're going to make, and then I'll give you the go-ahead to do it. So this is another level of letting go, if you like. Number 6. You decide, let me know your decision, and wait for my approval before proceeding. So now you're completely letting the other person do all the analysis and make the decision, but just come to you for that kind of sign off. Number 7, you decide, let me know of your decision, and go ahead unless you hear from me. Yeah? So now the other person really is empowered, unless you then say, no, actually, I don't agree. This can be a tricky one if people get the idea that you're going to keep kind of leaping in and second guessing them. This can be a tricky one, so I would be careful with this one. Number 8, you decide and take action. Let me know what you did and what the result was. So this is really getting into empowering now. I've told you what I want. You decide, you take action, you let me know, and what the result was. I'm really interested in what the result was. Now we're really getting into letting go. You decide and take action. You don't need to check back with me. That's real, that's real empowerment. And actually the ultimate then is the final one, number 10. You decide what action needs to be taken and you manage the situation. It's your area of responsibility. So what I suggest is that you work through these 1 to 10 and you decide for each thing you're delegating what level of control you're prepared to give up, what level of empowerment you're prepared to give the other person, and be really clear about how you're going to measure what they do. The earlier you are in the list, the more of your time will still be involved. This is a trade-off, right? This is a trade-off between your time and how much control you want. The lower down the list you get, the more you're empowering the other person to make the decision. And if you're hiring more senior people or people that want to grow within the organisation, you're going to have to do that. Otherwise, they're going to leave. They're going to get pissed off and they're going to leave. Because ultimately, people want to feel empowered to make decisions. They want to know that they can come to you for help if they need to. But it is about being able to let go and finding people that you can trust and you can empower. The lower down the list you are, the more you're also accepting that people might make mistakes, and you're accepting that. And that can be difficult. That urge to kind of swoop in to save the day as the business owner can be overwhelming. But the only way that people learn is to make mistakes, and so it's about giving them a framework to do that. And the only way that you're going to grow in your role is if you empower other people to do tasks and to take responsibility for areas of your business. Then your business will grow. If you have made a decision about where you are on that list and you've gone through the process, but you know that you might struggle not to kind of keep looking over someone's shoulders or keep interfering or keep swooping in to save the day, give the person the permission to remind you to butt out and go, thank you very much, I've got this, thank you, remember you told me that you were going to do this, I'm just reminding you, you know, I've got this, I know where you are if I need you. That's really important, that you give the other person the permission to do that. That will help, that will really help. So in terms of so these are the different levels of delegation. So now let's talk about kind of my top tips on how you effectively delegate. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is really about clarity. So there's 7 different things, this is also in my book, 7 different things that you need to make sure that you're really clear on. Number 1, what task is it that you want done? Number 2, really important, the outcome and the result that you expect. Delegation means that unless you're really at the top of that list and you're saying exactly this is how I want to do it, which is fine for junior people, not fine for people that are more experienced, but also people that want to grow, you don't get to tell them how to do it. You get to tell them this is the standard, this is the outcome. So what do you want to delegate and what outcome or result do you expect? The deadline, how much time. People get really hung up on this. Just because you would do it really quickly and immediately doesn't mean the other person will. Other people will prioritise things in different areas, they will do things in different orders. You need to learn to accept that and be really clear about I want it by Friday. Just be really clear about the timelines and then step away and let them manage it. The 4th thing you need to be really clear about is what should the person do if they get stuck? Should they come to you? Should they speak to somebody else? What resources have they got? What should they investigate? That's really important so that somebody understands what they need to do if they're struggling, but also to give you the confidence that they've got some avenue to go on and something to explore if they're going to get stuck. How and when to ask you for guidance and support. So one of the main reasons why you're delegating in the first place is to free up your time. And so you don't want to give the other person the impression that you will be available at all times through all manners of communication to answer their questions. So you need to be really clear about, I'd like you to do this task, this is the outcome that I want, I'd like it done by Friday. If you get stuck or you have any questions, why don't you ping me and let's have a call on Wednesday afternoon, or let's sit down Wednesday morning and have a talk through it if you're getting stuck. So be really clear about how, what method, but also when it's okay for them to ask you for guidance and support. Because what often happens is people will look at you and go, oh my God, she's really busy, he's really busy, I can't interrupt him. And so they will leave it and they will leave it. So it's important in your instructions that you give clear guidance around what to do if they get stuck, and then how and when that they can ask you for further guidance or clarification. Also, really important, at what point in the process do you want to be consulted, or do you want to have a sign-off? So often, for example, maybe with financial matters, you might be quite happy to delegate the creation of an invoice or a report, but you want to actually have final sign-off, or you want to be consulted at a particular moment. So please do this, this and this, but at this particular moment I want to be consulted. I want you to come and speak to me so that I can check in or I can sign off on that bit before you proceed further. Also very important. And finally, you need to be really clear about what happens if something goes wrong. If people make a mistake, you don't want them to be frightened of coming to you and speaking to you. So you need to try and anticipate what might go wrong so that you can help people with that conversation. So be clear about what you want to get done. Be really clear about the outcome and the result that you expect. Be clear about the timelines, the deadline, what the person should do if they get stuck, how and when to ask you for guidance or support, at what point in the process you want to be consulted or when you want to sign off, and what to do if things go wrong. If you can get really clear about those 7 things, but also decide what level of control you want in the delegation, it will hopefully demystify this whole dark art of delegation and empowerment for you, and enable you to have a happier relationship with the people that you're working with. It will also help begin that process of learning to trust people. So let me speak a little bit about that. Trust, as is often said, is something that is earned. And so what most people do when they're delegating is they start off with quite a high level of control in their delegation, so being quite prescriptive and quite specific about what they want. And then as somebody gains your trust, you're able to give them more control and more latitude. I would always say it's really important to be really clear about those things I outlined, particularly the outcome and the result. And you need to let go of the fact that people will do things in a different way than you, and that will be difficult. You might not understand that. I would remind you that we're all wired very differently, and so the way that I might approach a task is likely to be very, very different from the way that you might. But actually, you shouldn't care about that, because what you should be caring about is the outcome and the result, not how they get there. So, any questions about that, Charlie? I can see that you're watching. Hello, welcome. Any questions about delegation or the dark art of letting go? I hope you guys found this very useful. Thank you for joining. There's a few people joining now. I hope you found that very useful. As I say, it is in my book. It's in chapter 8, the management chapter of this book. So there's much more detail in there. Check that out, or add your questions in. Let me know what your thoughts are. Post your comments, actually. I'd be interested if you try this out. So tell us about a task or an activity that you're looking to delegate. What are your concerns around that? Do you want any advice around that? Where do you think you are on that sort of control spectrum? How much control do you want? Are you really clear about the outcome that you're looking at, rather than focusing on the way that task is done. So put in the comments below what you're looking to delegate, what you'd like to delegate, and any struggles that you might be having with that, and let us help you with that. Also, please do post your goals on Monday. Let us know how you were getting on. We'll be checking in with you this afternoon, those of you that posted goals this last Monday. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Friday and hope you have a great weekend, and speak to you soon. Take care. Bye. Bye now.